On today's Minute of the Apes, a belly full of cheese is all it takes to make a dog calm.
Take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape!
This is a divine bomb.
The only good human is a dead human! There is fire, there is smoke.
Hello and welcome to Minute of the Apes, a daily podcast where we break down every minute of the Planet of the Apes movies, 1 minute at a time. I'm Todd, and before I talk about the boys, I have to talk about a sweet little dog that I looked at while the music was going on, and she's just all laid out looking like this, and finally the eye sees upon that there's cheese in front of her.
She finally figured it out.
She finally got up and went and ate some cheese. That was Sean. Richard, how are you today, my friend?
I'm doing all right, although I have to say I have some issues with what exactly is happening in this minute, and it's just from a script standpoint, but we can talk about that when we get
to it.
I hope we'll unpack that, because I have issues with what's going on in this too. So,
all right.
Sean, tell us, minute 24, what's going on?
All right, we're going to start minute 24 with Limbo saying they're worth more intact, and ends with Limbo asking the general's daughter if there is anyone.
Oh,
that's how it ends.
It's funny because I was sitting there going, anyone, and then I realized, that's where it ends. All right, here it comes, minute 24, Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes.
They're worth more intact.
Keep your eye on this one. He's feisty.
Are these the ones that have been raiding the orchards, sir? I know an old country remedy that never fails. See, first, you simply gut one human and you string the carcass up.
The human rights faction are nipping at my heels already.
Oh, do-gooders, who needs them? I mean, I'm all for free speech as long as they keep their mouths shut.
I promised my niece a pet for her birthday.
Excellent. Oh, the little ones make wonderful pets. But be sure you get rid of it by puberty. The one thing you don't want in your house is a human teenager. Oh, yes. Anyone you...
As minute 24, we have Oberon's worth of apes and humans, 2 displaced pods worth of humans and apes, and Ape City.
All right, we visually got moving shots that show us Marky Mark, primarily the person in the cage, as Michael Clark Duncan comes along and tells us that he's feisty, looking down. We got reaction shots, Tim Roth doing a very twirling his mustache moment of looking through the gate, the bars at Marky Mark. It goes back and forth. We see Chris through some bars. We then have a moment between Paul and Tim Roth. And that's pretty much visually all you get, is a lot of bars back and forth until finally Tim Roth walks away. And we get the final shot of the creepy niece thingy.
With a very prominent eyebrow.
Okay, I'm going to start with, can someone explain to me what makes Marky Mark feisty?
Well, that was my note. It said, keep an eye on Davidson. It was Chris Christopherson's character that was leaping and fighting, so why weren't they saying keep an eye on him?
But keep in mind, the general and the other dude
earlier when
were not really involved with Chris Christopherson's fight a few seconds earlier.
Maybe they were remembering when.
But had he done something out on the lava field that really made him feisty?
And now he's like not paying attention. It's almost, I wish somebody had told him to keep hey, you need to keep it down.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know why Mark said, don't look at me kind of thing. Like nothing happened out there that I'm aware of that's any more unusual than what the other humans did. Here's what I'm confused about. All right. So the ape military rounded up all these humans. We get an aside, which is a kind of a callback to the first one for the first movie, that they were the ones raiding the orchards.
Yeah.
They then corral them into this cart, send them into the city. This slaver then buys these slaves from the military, uses his own forces to separate them and cage them to sell them. Then the military shows back up for whatever reason in which Thade wants to give one of the gifts to his kids. Like it's a weird,
It is a weird
transactional
circle.
situation. Very odd transactional thing for the military to be involved in this kind of thing and not take control of them, to pass them off as slaves or to pass them off to be sold for separate second military or guards and stuff to divide them up. For the military then to show back up again. Why wouldn't they just be in military detention centers and like we'll sell these or something like that? I don't know.
You know, I don't disagree. I guess I'd never even thought about that. That's why is with this reasoning of that these are slave labor, why is the general even going out on that hunt to begin with? And then when you do the cycle of him coming back to it, it becomes even more like,
why would he come back to get? He should have just taken the pet. Pet when
he should have either taken it, or someone should have brought it to him.
We can't do anything with these. Sell them or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, our prisons are full. Just anything. The fact that we're coming back to the limbo, saying these are the ones raiding the orchards. Are these the ones raiding the orchards? Okay, this is a callback to the first film, right? That's what they were trying to stop them from doing.
Yeah, in the fields.
But we're getting it now. It's just a transactional relationship that I don't fully understand.
Now, with that said, I do want to point out in this very moment that I think that the makeup on Michael Clark Duncan is borderline stunning. And especially because the work that he does within it, just the flicking of his nose up and down from beneath that to bring... When he's over enunciating, he's probably, if you took that makeup away, he's doing too much.
He's got
But beneath that makeup, it is terrifyingly real. What I think that Rick Baker did that's interesting is to basically take away that bottom piece that you would get in the original movies that was a hollow little thing, and instead build a slim upper part that sits atop the actual lip of the actor so that he can really enunciate and move that.
And you can kind of use your teeth a little bit.
Right. I just think what he's doing, I think, is as good as anything that Roddy McDowall did beneath his makeup. It's beautiful. It's beautiful work.
Again, and
it was a really good shot as well between them from the other side of the bars, for sure.
And going along with cutting off limbs, Limbo is used to gutting a human and stringing them up to teach the other ones what to do. He doesn't really care about these humans. As a matter of fact, the fact that he says, "I'm all for free speech as long as you keep your mouth shut," I went, "Oh, he's a Republican. I get it."
Wow.
Okay, so...
Yes?
The human rights faction is already nipping at my heels. I'm confused. We have rounded up humans that we then sold as slaves, and there's a human... I don't understand. There's a human rights faction that upset at the fact that we're rounding up humans and selling them as slaves? Is that what it is? Is that what the...
And if you're going to do that... We had a little bit of Helena being accused of being a human lover. I feel like
maybe you should have seen somebody with a protest sign
when they brought that card in.
Yeah, and they should have been stopping the kids from throwing rocks and everything. Humans
and then
have
she
rights.
could be the further one to come over, but you can't tell that story. She's the only example, and since now there's wholly this human rights element to this.
We're setting up a big thing here, and with some side throwaway lines that don't really fit. A do-gooders who needs him, I'm all for free speech as long as they keep their mouth shut. I'm like, where is it? Like, this is just kind of being thrown to me. Like, I don't know.
So
I can't process this all.
They've evolved the Bill of Rights with free speech in it.
I guess, but I would have liked to have seen some protesters. I guess that would make a little more sense to me. And that, what Limbo is doing is kind of
barbaric
or sinister or something like that, as opposed to just what's happening in this particular culture.
I guess it'd be the equivalent
Society.
of how we used to test on makeup on the apes and stuff like that. And people were going, no, you shouldn't do that. Well, right here, they're saying, no, you shouldn't be having these humans. They have rights too.
I mean, yeah, in the first one, the idea of them rounding up humans because they were raiding the orchards and then sending off to get scientific research on.
Yeah.
Some sent off to be slave labor. Some
pets.
that makes sense to me. This is just kind of a jumble.
That's another thing that's kind of strange. All right, so some people keep humans as pets. This little girl wants one, and the joke of, hey, you don't want a human teenager in your house. How'd that fly over for you, Todd?
Well, okay, that actually kind of came off as weird, creepy, because which one are you trying to tell me? You don't want a human teenager in house. Is that because of masturbatory puberty type things?
Probably.
Or the fact that they're also a pain in the ass and they question everything you do?
They're whiny little bitches. Thinking about getting a pet that will eventually be as big as me, if not bigger, is just kind of a strange notion. And unless they are literally keeping them for just a couple years and then getting rid of them.
Then sending them back to the slave.
Yeah.
I guess the whole thing that I don't get is I don't really understand what the fuck they're talking about across the board. It doesn't make a ton of sense, back to Richard's idea of why are they hoarding and coming back to it, and why don't I want a human teenage child? Because really, if they're a slave, are they even allowed to be whiny? And hopefully they're not yanking their crank over there in the corner if they're being a slave.
And we're throwing a whole thing in here about I'm all for free speech. What here's we're gonna dabble a little bit in the politics of this reality just briefly to make you think that there's something relevant to the first 5 films, but it's just
as much as that. I think when we did the first film, we had a lot of Jesus. They're throwing every political element you could against the wall, but at least they're bringing them in. When they would bring them in, it's too much, but it still made sense why it was there.
Yeah.
And this one, it just feels like they're trying to we should say this and pepper it in. And
look, they're kind of humans too, because they have a Bill of Rights and people have free speech and they have animal lovers, which are human lovers. And
right. I go back to before we started this one. I don't know that you guys will remember this, but I think on Twitter, I asked everybody what films they were excited for us to do. The Coming trilogy got 0 votes.
Really?
The Tim Burton one surprisingly held very solid, and So watching this, I don't think it's a terrible movie. I watched a lot of really bad movies in my life, but there's a reason on IMDb it only holds a 5.7 rating. I think that people look at it, it's just not really that compelling. It doesn't have a narrative that makes a lot of sense. These leaps of logic, and I think it really comes true when we get to the end of this film. It's just where does this come from? Why are you doing this? It feels like 12 scripts kind of pushed together into one.
Well, when we get to the end of the film, I'll restate my Kevin Smith story about it.
So the general comes in, right, with this
daughter
munchkin.
or niece or whoever.
I promised my niece I promised my pet to my little niece, or whatever he says specifically. Right. So this is his niece, not his daughter.
Right.
Yeah.
Which would imply that the woman also in the scene is probably his sister, her mother.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then he walks over and puts his arm around her from
Very
one
lovingly,
side, lovingly kind of moves around. So clearly this is maybe his wife. Like even that doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah.
Why couldn't it have just been his daughter? Why does it have to be a niece with another motherly figure that may be his sister or could potentially be his wife? Like, it just didn't...
I guess maybe from a character standpoint, you can show that a cruel general
has some love still.
But it can only reach out to a niece.
And
his own daughter
member,
would be fuck that kid, and I don't know.
So he's making some exception to have a pet. Maybe this is something that's not normal.
Yeah,
this is something that he's doing because of his power structure, his ability to actually have a human as a pet.
Well, I don't know if it's not normal because Limbo says, they make wonderful pets. So it's something that's obviously been done before. Maybe he's been so hard line about not having pets in the house. Now he's finally breaking down, and you're seeing the sweet side of the general.
And sister aunt, sister mom.
Sister wife, for some reason, won't directly look at Paul Giamatti's character. She looks down, looks up like it's an embarrassing thing. Like something, I don't know, something weird about this transactional relationship.
Would it not be a stronger scene to not have the niece in it, yet still have it about my niece wants that, okay?
Right.
And then have the intimidating nature, especially when we get to what's going to happen when she chooses.
Right.
But imagine, when we get to that, I want you to imagine she's not there and it's Thade that's doing the choosing. That becomes a scary moment at that point.
It would be very intense, yeah.
And with this weirdness of this little kid in it, it's almost distracting. I don't understand, because she looks creepy as fuck.
I wonder if the dress is just to hide the fact that they don't want to put a lot of makeup on a little kid, so they just did the face stuff, and that way and the hands, that way they don't have to do the rest of the body. They can just put a dress on her.
But then again, it is Tim Burton, who kind of likes weird, twisty looking type things.
He does, and well, we're not really. We should be seeing a little bit more of that.
I agree.
If this were something that Tim Burton were kind of doing, this looks like a sudden inspiration as opposed to a planned inspiration.
Yeah,
or planned intent. Sorry.
Planned inspiration. That's going to probably be the name of that episode.
Planned inspiration.
That was brilliant. All right, has anybody got anything else?
That's it for me.
No, I'm good.
All right, minute 24 is in the books. Everyone, have a great day.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Coming on.